Hi guys, this is Blackie. I'm back. Okay. Hat looks all kinked all up. I'm wearing the wrong jacket. It's got that big old collar that stands up in the back. And my hat hits it and everything else. Just, fun deal. Scoot up, stay there. Okay. Whew. It's 36, I believe it said outside right now. And I bet a lot of y'all a lot colder temperatures than that. Gordon, good evening. And yeah, I got different glasses. My old glasses broke right after I had the live last week. The frame snapped up here at the top, and so I had to go hunt me down another pair of glasses, which these are actually readers, just magnifiers. But I have to have them, otherwise I can see fine to drive and do all that. I just can't read. I can read a street sign or something without them on, but I can't see fine detail like reading that. So, Randy. Yeah, Randy, I heard about that. Keep all three, good evening. Grey Wolf, hey there. Steve Kingsbury, hey brother, cool. Too bad we ain't out at the lake. We'd have a good fire going tonight. Cordell, good evening to Australia again. Randy, any gun laws you need to know before the gathering? Alabama's an open carry and concealed carry state. Out there at the camping area is a no gun, so don't wear one open. You know what it is? It's they don't want you to be target shooting down at the lake or something like that. But you're in a huge forest where hunting is okay. So just personal stuff, just keep it out of sight. You'll be fine. Jeff, hello to Newfoundland, Canada. Richard, good evening. Justin Coon, hello, brother. Jonathan Frisbee, Fearless Journey. Hello, my brother. Hope you're doing well. Jeff, hello there. Bears in the house, good evening. 2020, good evening. And Jeff Conley, hello. Patriot Preacher 43, understood. Rhett, has the cold made it there yet? Actually, Mississippi's been colder than us. It just it's high today was in the 40s. Low tonight's going to be in the low 20s. And when I came in here to my study, it was 36 degrees in here. So it's going to be pretty cold. And then I think Monday or so, it's supposed to start warming back up here. James, hello to Columbia, South Carolina. Oh, cool, Justin. Did you like it? Dale Morse, good evening. Hello, Prepared For. Hello to the Frozen North. Briar Smoke, good evening. Chris All, hello, brother. Looking forward to the camp out. Yeah, it's a cold, windy evening. Yeah, we've had a constant breeze going. Yeah, that temp's dropping now, Justin. Now the sun's going down. It's going to drop like a rock. Remax, hello to y'all. Y'all having it pretty cool down there for you as well. Grey Wolf, I heard that they had to move the Iditarod because y'all ain't got no snow. When we got 10 inches of snow here in the end of January, they pointed out we had more snow than any of the major cities in Alaska. So everything's upside down, I guess. But 110, good evening to Rome, Georgia. Cool, Justin. Yeah, I got you. Anonymous, yeah, the Lamats is probably they're waiting on a shipment from overseas because it don't matter who's importing them. They're all probably coming from one big lot, because it'd be where nobody's got one and then suddenly everybody has got them. And so I think it's just big lot shows up. Roger, hello to Frigid Little Rock. Big E the Knife Nut, good evening. John Gable, doing pretty good. Yeah, anonymous. I kind of doubt it that they're going to get me to, I can be any influence on them. Yeah, Justin, you may have to wax it. Just get a candle and run it up and down the zipper. And a lot of times that'll free up a zipper that's a little too tight, you know. Hello, Cow Tipper. Oh, Jerry, sorry to hear y'all got the flu. Time of the year, though, you know, we only get, it hits for us down here starting about December and goes to early March. So we've been lucky this time. You know, I had flu back in the fall and I haven't had anything since. So thus far, I'm doing pretty good. Remax, any idea how to make a Kydex sheath for a kukri 10-inch blade? It's going to have to be a bottom and then an open that you come in and rock in. You can't slide it in like a normal. So go to the pivot point, you know, where it comes down. That's where the highest hump is. You can have a solid sheath to there, and then from there up, it's just got to be an open slot like that so you tip the knife out of it. That's about the best I can tell you. Gray Wolf, I have not, but I know what you're talking about. You might just have to do that. Just make a pure bushing to go in there. Figure out how thick you need and simply roll a piece around a mandrel, cut it off, make sure the two ends don't quite touch. You don't want a perfect fit because under pressure it'll buckle. You want it like a dime thickness gap. Slide that into the cylinder and slide that on the arbor and see. But I have done it for a single action army once a long time ago that had rusted so bad in the interior. But it was a third 220, so you didn't have to worry about pressure. But it had rusted around the base pin. The base pin had just had it. I don't know what they thought they were greasing it with, but it just rusted the snot out of it. And so I had to make a sheath, a sleeve like that to go down into it. Seems if I recall, I cut off might be able to cut off a like a 44 Magnum or something, or 44 Special brass, and use that. It's already round, so you just cut a slot out and then fit it around the arbor. See about that. That might work for you. Yeah, okay, Justin, you done tried wax. Chris Martin, glad you did. Hobo reels are just handy and quick to have with you. Like I said, when I'm just wanting to forage a little bit, get an extra meal, I'm not here to fill up an ice chest or something. In that case, I'm going to bring the full rods, reels, the whole 9 yards. In survival, I'll just run a trot line. But having that hobo reel to just be able to flip out there and catch a couple, yeah, it's very handy. Ramon, yes, a Lamat up close would be very effective. It's the reload that really, I don't like the reloading system on it at all. And that's one of the reasons you find so many of the originals broke off, because it's a weak system there. Take the cylinder off and reload it off the gun. Will, have you ever owned a Walther PPK? Yes, I've owned a Walther PP and a PPK before. Makes a very good small pocket pistol. I hear you, Chris. Yeah, you're up there in the cold country, still got a lot of snow. They're getting snow in, I think, North Alabama tonight. Yes, Matt Flatterty, there is a boat ramp at the campground. There's a pier and a boat ramp there. That lake does not allow motors. You can use a electric trolling motor, but no gas motors. But canoeing and stuff, kayaking, sure, go right ahead. There's a boat landing right there at us. Andy Knight, good evening. Yeah, Gray Wolf, that'll work very well. Cool, Charles Martin. Yeah, I mean, I was gifted that, but you know, as far as I'm concerned, it works just as good. And my old coffee can one, my can one, you know, that's what I made when I was a kid. They just work so well. Once you get the mindset and figure out how to use it, yeah, it works really well. Jerry, when is my gathering again? In fact, I'm posting a video on Saturday as a reminder. It will be April the 7th through the 13th at Geneva State Forest Lake. That's in South Central Alabama, and it makes sure you put in State Forest Lake because there is a Geneva County Lake, different place, and there's a town of Geneva, different place. And I've had people going to come. They just put in Geneva, and it takes them 22 miles away to a different town. And they call me up. So I'm out here. I'm out front of the police department. Where are y'all at? About 12, 18 miles away from you. You know, so it can be confusing because of the name, but put in Geneva State Forest Lake. What I tell people to do is put in Opp, Alabama as your destination. OPP, Opp. When you get there, then put in Geneva State Forest Lake, and it'll take you the shortest, most efficient route straight in that way. Terry, we're doing pretty good. Mike Simmons, good evening, brother. Alabama just passed boat operator certification requirement for non-residents as well as residents. Yeah, but it's got to have a motor on it. If it does not have a motor, it doesn't. I don't believe it has to have that because they had people going offshore. You know, I remember a buddy of mine that worked with the Coast Guard years ago, and he said they were like 30 miles offshore, and something popped up on their radar about 4 o'clock in the morning, and they headed toward it just to see if it was floating debris because a lot of times the dope dealers would come in with a boat, offload all the stuff, and just abandon the boat. You know, and let it float off. And so they were going to check on that. And here was a bass boat 30 something miles offshore, and they had tried to go offshore with just a trolling motor. And they had their gas motor, they'd run out of gas, and then they tried to get a trolling motor to get them back in, and they were floating out there in the middle of nowhere. So Miss Pam's in the house. Good evening. Philippe, hello to Australia. Guy Fox, 1100 on Dixie Lamat. They're well made. It's just I have done a video shooting them, etc. It's just you can tell why generals wanted it. Generals don't shoot a lot, but it is a very impressive gun. Great for adding to a collection, absolutely. Terry, hey, Blackie, I just got done with a 350 Legend build. How far do I need to sight the thing for max point blank? That's going to depend on several different things. What I recommend to do is this. Set the sights all the way to the bottom, absolutely zero. Put a target up at about 15 yards. Shoot a couple of rounds, make sure you're dead center where the bullseye is. You know, you adjust your windage up, down, left, or right. Don't move the sights, move the target out to 50 yards. Keep a paper plate, okay? Put a dot in a paper plate, and that be your aiming point. Aim at the dot. Is the hits on the paper plate? Yes. Move it to 75 yards. Is the dot still on the paper plate? Yes. Move it to 100 yards. Whenever you find where it's no longer staying every shot on the paper plate, That's the maximum point blank that arc and all is going to do. So let's say it's 75, 80, or 100, 120, whatever it is. It's where that round's dropping or climbing. And so to figure out your load and ballistics and everything else, that's where you got to put for the maximum amount there. And it'll let you know I don't have to make any adjustments from here to there. After that, I got to adjust sights. And that's your point blank. Guy Fox, the loading lever on a Lamat, are you talking about, or on a Walker? Because I know I've done a video on the Walker. Bob, hello to Southwest Ohio. Yeah. That 350 Legend is awful close to a 3855. You know, is actual 1-to-1. It's just a modern cartridge. They have put that 350 into a lot of different things, from automatics to bolt actions to pumps to, you know, they've tried to turn that 350 into a and all fit all type deal. Yes, hello to Vernon Walker. Yeah, 2020. That's correct. If you're in a boat, you got to have a personal flotation. Now in Alabama, you didn't have to have it on, but it better be in the boat. So, but if you're on a motor and it's moving, you got to be wearing it. If you're paddling it, you just have it hanging close to you. It had to be within reach. Put it that way. Yeah, I mean, here we are in the third week of February. January ended with a blizzard for us, and we had 10 inches of snow here. Then it warmed up, and everything turned spring. Days were in the 80s. I mean, like a week or more, almost 2 weeks of days in the 80s, nights in the 50s and 60s. All the grass has turned green. All the pine trees are showing their pollen. Me and Bear, well over a week ago, we were sitting on his land, and this cedar tree was letting go all of its pollen. It like smoke coming out of a tree. It was so thick. And, I said, we're looking at the grass. We're looking at all the dandelions and everything else. He said, well, it may be completely over. And I said, well, if the pecan trees haven't budded out yet, it ain't over. And so then, poof, here we are. All this cold weather's moved back in, and now we're going to have highs in the 40s and nights in the 20s, or maybe even the upper teens. You know, this is what February should feel like. So I just hope it gets all of this out of its system before we have my gathering. Ed, good evening. I hear you, guy. Well, that's the thing, guy. Make it yours. Decorate it. Make things work your way. You know, I have marked up sights and everything else for my guns so that I could use them more effectively. So whatever you need to do. Well, Jim Jones, thank you very much. Random adventure. Yeah, I bet it's pretty cool. Yeah, Justin, usually it's 1st of April we get a little bit of a cool down here. Not bad, but normally it's on those years like this where it's warmed up in the 80s, it dropped back down where the daytime highs would be like 60 and the night might be 40. That would be okay. I just don't want to have a gathering where the nights are going to be in the teens. Thanks, Chris. Sanford Brown doing pretty good. Actually hanging in there fairly well. Y'all know I'm wearing heavy layers. We've seemed to figure out that one of the effects of the stroke is I'm not regulating body heat that well. And so I'll get cold. And when it warmed up all these days and got in the 80s, I didn't sweat, which I should have. And so we're trying to figure that out. But it's nothing bad. You just feel cool. And so I just put on a few extra layers. You know, now I look like the Pillsbury Doughboy, but at least I'm warm. And I'm hoping that's going to regulate back out. John Loudermilk's in the house. Hello, brother. John Woo, you're correct. A lot of the original mats, the loading lever is just missing on it. I have seen them retrofitted to take a Colt 51 Navy loading lever on the side where you would put it in place, put a screw in and use it to load and then take it back off because it had no way of resting like that. And the Lamat changed over to being a pinfire real quick after the Civil War. In fact, a lot of them you find are pinfire. So they didn't need a loading lever. They just loaded in the back, you know. And the TV show Westworld, that Lamat is not a conversion Lamat. That's a complete prop made up that doesn't use what the Lamats were. All the Lamats were pinfires that were in cartridge form. And they had a way to open them up and put those cartridges in pretty easy. And then you just grab the pin to help pull it out with. So it didn't even need an injector rod, really. John Woo, you can do that. In fact, I have seen first model loading lever, like first model Dragoon loading levers, retrofitted onto a walker to make it work. They just put a dovetail down there and put it on. Which in my videos, I've got a thing talking about how on the reproductions, that latch that comes down that the loading lever locks into is rounded. On the originals, it wasn't. It was squared off. And so when you closed the loading lever, it popped in place like that and locked. You know, like this goes underneath that, click, and you had to push that tab out of the way to drop the loading lever. So you're supposed to grab it and take your thumbnail and push that latch out of the way and do it. But whenever they made the replicas of them in Italy, they were taking an original that had 100 and some odd years of use. And so that loading latch was rounded off. And if you'll take a file and file a little bit, you can make it go from round to having a little shelf, and your loading lever will stay up a whole lot better. I mean, I did a video on this about the loading lever latch on a walker. And it's not a guaranteed fix, but it does, like 80% of the problems goes away. Prepared for it. Yes, they will. And I'm on them too. So. Jim Jones, I greatly appreciate your kind words. Well, Tim Lacey, I hear you. 15 degrees in Paris, Tennessee with snow. Yeah, a lot of, like I said, I believe North Alabama is getting snow tonight. So, Gary Graham, good evening. You know, that's talking about the replicas. When you actually take a feeler gauge and actually check, or a micrometer and check an original Colt versus a replica, they're close, but there are slight differences in dimensions. And they did that intentionally because when they were just starting to do the replicas, and definitely by the 80s, the collectors were screaming for them to stop making replicas because the original 1860 Armies, 51 Navies, Walkers, and all that were becoming collectible and becoming more and more and more expensive, and people were making fakes. And so they wanted them to stop the supply so that it would drive the price of their collections up, see? And over time, that finally worked itself out to where they figured out ways that an actual original versus a modern replica. And one of the most simplest is a Geiger counter, because all steel today, you can detect radiation in it. It's because after World War II, all the nuclear bombs that were detonated around the planet, in the process of making steel today, they had the air has a trace amount, even the air you're breathing right now has a trace amount of radiation in it. And that gets in the steel when they make it, the Bessemer system, blowing air into it. Okay. So an original 1860 Army cylinder and a modern replica, if you lay it on top of a Geiger counter, you can tell which one is which instantly, because that replica has to have radiation, and the replica has to have radiation, and the original will not have any radiation, because that there ain't none in the steel. And so that's a dead giveaway today. And the high lofty end collectors that are going for that one of a kind and that whatever have learned that trick now, and they can distinguish an original gun from a mocked up replica, which that was one of the fun things when you went to and I'm sure it's still there, when you go to Dixie Gun Works, and they had cases, display cases full of fakes that Mr. Kirkland had picked up over the years. Some of them were really neat. I got to know Mr. Kirkland. I'd go up there, I don't know, a couple times every 6 months or so for several years on a job. I'd make a detour if I could to go to Dixie Gun Works. And some of the fakes he had in his collection, like an 1860 Army revolving carbine. Man, this thing looked factory. Whoever made it did an excellent job. I mean, it looked, like the Remington carbine. It was a Colt. And all the accessories in this case and everything else, he said it was as fake as it could be. It had been made in the late 40s by somebody. A gunsmith had made it. But he picked it up, and there are all kinds of guns there. Pattersons and calibers, they never existed. Who would go and make a Patterson as complicated as a Patterson is, make every part and try to fake some super rare collectible original? Well, back in the days when everything was in books and magazines, they got away with a lot more than they do today, because today you got the internet and visual references, and you can go research every one of them that we know exists. And so some oddball thing comes out, it's pretty easy to figure out this is a fake, pretty easy these days. Wind chill near zero in Southwest Virginia. Undetonated steel, correct. That's one of the reasons they go looking for a lot of the old battleships and stuff, because they want the steel out of them for sensitive equipment that can't have steel. So they need the old steel to do it with, make modern machines out of it so it doesn't trip a Geiger counter that way. Crossover, hello there. Well, Gary Graham, happy birthday. Blue Bandit, yes, Bear is in the house, or he was a little while ago. Oh, yeah, Gray Wolf, you're correct. The transition time, immediately after the Civil War, for example, where so many armies around the world saw that the muzzleloader was obsolete. And so you had all kinds, like the thur conversions for the Colts and everything else, or not conversions, but creations of the Colts. There were all kinds of shells and all kinds of conversions of guns to load and everything else. It'll drive a collector nuts. Just the various types of cartridge guns and conversion guns and etc. you can get during that time period, because everybody was trying to make something out of what they had. And it is truly amazing, some of the things they came up with. Chuck Hussey, glad to hear it. Hope you enjoy them. And I've got sidetracked with some stuff, guys. I am getting back to the cooking videos here pretty soon. In fact, I was talking to Bear at lunch yesterday, and he said he's going to start a cooking series as well. So you'll have double the fun. It won't be Bear's cookbook, but he'll do videos. So. Another Gary. This one's from New Mexico. Well, hello, Gary from New Mexico. Hold on, Grey Wolf. I have a Ruger single six with 3-digit serial number and a flat loading gate, right? Told me that liar. No, that was just an early one. The Rugers went through some changes, and I know that whenever they were getting the casting and all, there were a few of them that the loading gate casting, they hadn't got it yet, and they had those flat loading gates. They machined those loading gates and put them in there instead of casting them. So that's one of the rarer Rugers because of that, because they hadn't quite got that shape right in the castings for that gun. And because the very first, if I understand right, the very first ones they came out with cracked because people flipping them up, the detent and all, people would high speed flip them for some stupid reason, and they cracked. And so when they went to beef up the frame right there and beef it up, they hadn't got the new castings, and they were still in production. So they started making them like you're talking about, with a flat gate on it. And then they went up. So that's a real rare Ruger. And Ruger was always willing to experiment and come up with stuff. And I've told this story before. I've held in my hand a Ruger Super Blackhawk in 223556. And it was serial number like XM19, XM11, something like that. And it was somebody that came up and wanted me to find a part for it because none of the parts he could find fit it. So I called Ruger and I told them about it. And they said, no, that gun doesn't exist. I said, ma'am, I'm holding it in my hand right now. I'll send you a picture. And so we had a fax back in them days. We didn't have cell phones yet, but I faxed them a picture of it and showed them the serial number and everything. And they wanted that gun back bad. That was a tool room gun, i.e. they'd made it up for the military, probably for Vietnam. Back when you could carry your own personal weapons. They wanted Black Hawk in 5.56. And they wanted that gun back. And so he ended up doing a horse trade with them to get what he really wanted from Ruger. But more than a few tool room guns of Ruger have showed up in collections over the years, because Ruger wasn't scared to experiment. Gordon, I have heard of the lever action 12 gauge. I have not tried them though. (2020) I did not. I, to be honest, didn't even watch the Super Bowl. So. Dark Meta, hello there. 26 out by the fire camping. Good for you. Oh, a nice big old fire and a circle of diamond shelters with everybody taking turns stoking the fire. Somebody designated on fire watch for an hour, and then you wake up your buddy and he watches it for an hour, so everybody gets everything but 1 hour sleep. There's enough of you go around. Those are good nights. Nice roaring fire, good wool blankets, cold wind ever so often. Yeah, good times. Jim Jones, you ever been a poker player? For some reason, I think you'd be a good one, Blackie. Oh, no, I have no knowledge of this game. I have no idea what you are talking about. Chris Hall, you can hush up now. Yes, Dark Matter, they have. Like I said, we went and had a dang blizzard, and then it warmed up like it was summer. And now we're back to cold. So, whiplash spring. Oh, okay, cool. Jerry, I hear you. You know, adding A, it's how thick are the wool blankets. B, I used to have this wool blanket. It was a French wool blanket. That thing was like a king size blanket. It wasn't very thick, but it was waterproof. I mean, you could set it up like a tent. It was only about as thick as a number two pencil, but it was not lofty at all. It was compressed if it was anything, and I mean it would bead water. And I used it in living history, and so I would put my Whitney blanket, which is more fluffy, on top of me, and I'd put that French blanket over the top like a top cover, and it was a whole lot warmer that way because that Whitney being thick would trap the air. And then that top cover might as well be in plastic. There wasn't nothing going through that. And it kept the heat and the air from circulating out away from it. Because we were doing living history where you had to do all 1800s type technology. We couldn't just throw a poncho over the top of us as a vapor barrier or something. It had to be something historic. And so I would use that or a heavy piece of canvas to do it. Anyone else have pitting outside the forcing cone? You will have a little bit of flash burn sometimes. That's where the actual flash of the charge acting like a blowtorch. It can cause minor pitting. Should not be severe unless it's a real soft frame for some reason. Gray Wolf, what are some forage garden type vegetables that can be planted in wild crop situations? Well, it's going to vary because where you're at. Now, I can tell you what I can do here in the South, but I don't know where you're up there where you're at, the type of vegetables. But of course, dandelion can be grown, wood sorrel can be grown, dock can be grown down here, and then there's greenbrier. All of those are wild forages down here that you can just plant, and people just think your garden's overgrown. They won't even realize it's all edible. But let me cook it, and they'll believe it is. I mean, I like that. The little ends of the greenbrier, you grab it, and if you grab it and pull, and it pops, it's about right. If you grab and you pull, and it don't come back up because it turns woody further down the stem. So you grab, like 6-8 inches from there, and just gently pull. If it pops, you got the good part. If it doesn't, back up a little shorter and try to where it just pops off, because that's the tender where it won't break free. That's too woody to eat. It just never gets soft. It'd be like hard rice to eat. But we'd take and boil them, and then when they're just about done, shift them over with out of the water into a little bit of butter and a little bit of garlic. Great stuff. So. What if each of us submits a recipe for inclusion in the cookbook? That's an idea, Bear. Call it a woodsman's cookbook or something, and everybody send in something. Me and Bear will talk about that. That'd be an idea. Recipe's called KFC. Well, everybody's got to know their limitations. You would think Miss Blackie, after being with me for all these years, that she'd be a woods woman on her own. She ain't. You know, she goes with me and she says, "Why do I need to know how to start a fire? I got you." So I do all the cooking out there. I build all the fires. I set up all the tarps. She's got her own little pop-up tent she can put up on her own. She can sort of get a fire going if she had to, and she can heat beanie weenies and stuff up and make coffee water. That's about it. So. Mike F. Blackie, thoughts on the Baker's Cavalry muzzleloader, the sawed-off double barrel? Very intimidating, works well, extremely close range. That's about it. For a actual hunting gun or have something to take out and use, 20 yards, it throws a pattern the size of a door. And that's what they were doing in the Civil War. They rode in amongst you. They came roaring up with pistols. Bang, 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 bang. When they got in amongst you, or the pistol ran dry, he pulled out the shotgun. That would banga, banga. And then normally they'd pull a saber, a bowie, a sawed-off axe, a something to womp with as they ran out the other side, you know. And so, yes, devastating effective as a military weapon at close range. Not a great hunting gun because the barrel's just too short to be very effective other than something 10 yards away, you know. Trust me, I've had short barrel guns. I've tried to feed myself with them. Snakes, really good for snake, you know. I had a Stevens Model 67 that had a 14-inch barrel on it when I was a very young man because we went in the swamps and stuff, and it was for snake. And I tried to squirrel hunt with it. You forget it. It just threw patterns all over the place. It was pull and pray. You're going to get some. And so you need longer barrels to be an effective hunting gun or using gun. But for a defensive gun, up close, yeah. Defend the hallway against the trolls. Yeah, it'll do that. Ramon, do you have any Lamat shot cups? The same way I do all of my 44s and etc. is I go and get a set of punches. And Harbor Freight has a punch set. Okay. And I believe it's the 1/2 inch punch. And I take soda boxes like Sprite, Coke, those big 24 count boxes. That's wax cardboard. And you need something to punch against so it don't dull the cutter. And I just go get like one of them $1 Frisbees in the pet department, you know, that you're supposed to just, the super cheap plastic, gonna play with the dog, and put that down, put the cardboard in it, and punch out wads. To load it for shot, I would put 20 grain, I think it was 20 grains of 20 grains, 3F powder, 2 cards. Put shot all the way just short of the top. 1 card, take the rammer, ram it down, put a 2nd card, ram it down. That's a shot load in a percussion revolver for snake or something like that. And would work the same in a Lamat like it would in 1860. Mitchell, well, thank you for tuning in. I have not tried those green light stoves, Chuck. I have used the Pathfinder alcohol stove. I've used the Trangia. I prefer the Trangia. I don't have anything against the Pathfinder, except the Pathfinder is stainless steel and it doesn't transfer heat as well. That's the reason the originals were that brass alloy. It's got to heat up. It's got to heat up the whole container. The container then heats up the liquid, which gases, and it becomes that burning jet. So the stainless steel isn't as efficient as the brass is. And so I like the large capacity of the Pathfinder. And if I'm going to cook something long term, I'm going to let it simmer for an hour. It's good for that. But it doesn't bloom as fast. On a really cold day, it doesn't get quite hot enough. Do like a whole 2-quart pot or something. A Martini Henry pistol. Interesting. Will, do you know a cheap way to reload 410? Yes. Again, those wads I was just talking about, you can punch out your own wads. You can use a deep well socket. Turn it. Set the socket down so the square holes to the top. I think it's 1/4 inch drive. Set the 410 base up there, run a punch down, pop out the old primer. Put a new primer, push it in by a thumb, and then put it down on a flat, hard steel washer. Run I want to say it was like a 5mm deep well socket on a 1/4 inch drive extension down inside of the hull. Tap it flush. That's how you see the primer. Now scoop and put a pre-measured amount of powder in there. Put newspaper wadding in. Put the shot in. Put a cardboard wad across the top of it and put a little bit of Elmer's glue to hold it in place. That's how we reloaded 410s when I was a kid. Didn't need any tools other than that. Charles Martin, can you do pizza on a campfire? Yes. I've done it in skillets and Dutch ovens before. Have any experience with the old Optimus Swede kerosene stove? I have not. Philippe, have a good evening. Gary, what's your favorite 22 pistol to shoot? My all-time favorite 22 pistol automatic is a Colt Woodsman. Had one for years. Second choice, Ruger Single 6. Third choice would be a Rough Rider 22. Those are available right now. Gordon, yes, I have saw one of those alcohol stoves that has the coiled up copper on top that it vaporizes real quick. Those blow like a blowtorch. They do good, and if you're looking to fast boil something, they're really good. Disadvantage, you can't tone it down. It's wide open. That's all it is. So to fry something, simmer something, it boil is what that thing does. Trailside is nice. Oh yeah, Miss Pam, pizza in a smoker absolutely works. I mean, all it is, you can go and get. They sell them in Walmart. Um, on where you find the pizza sauce and everything, they have these pre-made up pizza crusts, we'll call it. You're gonna add sauce, your own cheese. your own meats and everything too. You can take those and drop one of those into a skillet, like the Pathfinder skillet with the lid on it, and do it all up, put the lid on it, put it in over the heat for just a couple minutes so everything melts, and have pizza. That wouldn't be hard at all. Mitchell, yes, I have watched Cowboy Kent Rollins. He does a really good job. Jerry, my dad has one of those Rough Riders. Do you prefer 22 long rifle or 22 mag? 22 long rifle for the light jobs and etc. If I'm gonna be just toting it camping or etc. as a general carry revolver, 22 mag. 22 mag is double the power and is nothing to sneeze at up close as a defensive thing either. And I have shot some big dogs that were attacking because we had wild dogs. I have shot a cow and put him out. I've shot a bull and put him out. Coup de grace on deer and etc. 22 Magnum is very effective. Two guys in the Ozarks. Good evening. You talk about pizza. We had a guy years ago that he was a tin guy, right? He would take and put the tin flashing around big end houses, big money roofs and stuff like that. And he had all this tin, and he could make stuff out of tin. And he made this thing that looked kind of like a mailbox, but it was flat topped. And so he would take and build up a bed of coals, get it good and hot, and then he would move it out of the way and sit that tin box down and shovel them back up on top. There was a part that sat on top that was about that big that would sit on top of it and would hold coals for the heat. And you open the door and you put a pizza in and close it up. And so he built his own portable pizza oven that way out of tin. And he'd do it at Living History quite a bit because, well, they didn't have pizza back then. Actually, they had something very similar all the way back to Roman times. So it's just where you want pizza or not, Miss Pam is an awesome cook. I'm here to testify. I've eaten many meals, and I always look forward to camping with them. Yep, make a calzone, fold it in half. When grips chip, I don't know what to clear coat it with. Usually what we do is if it's wood grips and they're checking or they've got something, boil linseed oil. Now, if you've got a fine crack you're trying to get it down into, go to the painting department, not the house paint, art type, like painting portraits, painting landscapes, paint, that type of stuff, oil paints, that type of stuff. And look around the oil paints and you're looking for the boiled linseed oil there that's used in painting, the art type. That's a finer, thinner, and will get into the crack better than the boiled linseed oil that you buy to go on gun stocks. It's a trick we used to use. I would take a hog inoculator. You can get them from the county co-op just about free. Big hypodermic needle on a short syringe, and would suck a couple of cc's in and then put it in the crack and gently press it and force it into the crack of etc. And then either put a little pressure to hold the crack together or just let it lay there until it hardened. And then once it had hardened, I would lightly sand it so it was all smooth, fully flush, and I'd come back and put another coat of boiled linseed oil on the whole thing, and it would hide it in the grip. You wouldn't notice it so much. And it would also stabilize it where it wouldn't keep cracking. Richard Hayes, will you be using your Dutch oven a lot at your gathering? Usually I don't, but this time I've been asked to do biscuits. So I'm bringing my Dutch oven and I'll be doing some biscuits, that thing. So yeah, I'll have it. And I may cook a couple of my own meals in Dutch oven just to do it this time. Yeah, Mark Burgess, I hear you. We had a lady down the block from us. They went to using a smoker, and the wind always came up from their place, and so I'd be sitting there smelling smoked turkey, smoked ham, smoked chicken, smoked pork. We're eating bologna sandwiches. We were poor, and I had to smell that. That just made life difficult at times. Yep, keep all three. That's right. Bear's going to start his cookbook. He's retiring. So, Michael, I hear you. It does seem kind of out of place at a camp, doesn't it? Two Guys in Ozark. Where are you doing that demo at, Blake? Which demo are you talking about? Two Guys in Ozark? You mean making biscuits? It'll be there at camp. William wants me to make him biscuits. I did biscuits one night several gatherings ago, and he got in on it and got a biscuit. Him and Todd Gibson. And so this time when I was there, he kept saying, well, there's my Dutch oven if you want to make biscuits. Now I'll use my Dutch oven, but I'll be doing biscuits. It's not that difficult. If everybody wants to do a impromptu class, I'll be glad to show you what I do and how I do biscuits for camp. I'm not going to make anything super fancy. I'll probably make I'll make big old cat head biscuits that are drop biscuits. They're not layered biscuits. You don't roll them out. And go from that. Yeah, you can do cornbread. You can do whatever in there. Yeah. Okay, Michael. I hear you. It isn't automatically marked to let you know it comes off and have a hollow handle in it. I just got lucky. JB Caudell, good evening. How's it up there with you? Y'all getting any flooding? Camping without beer, just sitting in the woods. I like that. Bob, individually, everybody just takes care of themselves. There will be individuals that will make stuff to share, but just plan on cooking for yourself. That's what we all do. And then, like I said, there'll be people that will make stuff, and we got this left. Anybody else hungry? But we don't do it as potlucks. Wayne Wolf, yep, it's pretty cool in South Alabama tonight. Yeah, Gray Wolf, I agree. Wow. Okay. Caudell, I hear you. Flooding to snow and near zero temps. Hope y'all are okay. Gary Grant, hey Blakey, is there a recipe for a heart attack? Stress, heavy work, and a lot of stress for a lot of years. And other thing is dehydration. Dehydration can be a major problem because what happens is your blood actually starts thickening up and starts clotting, and it makes a clot that plugs off and causes the problems. The first two heart attacks I had, were severe dehydration. That I was working long hour jobs and I just was not taking care of me at all. And I just bulled through it, just keep going. And in fact, when they got me to the hospital the second time and they went to take blood and they couldn't get blood out of me. When they tried to pull it out, it was so thick. And they realized they hooked up IVs in arms and legs and went to running like crazy trying to rehydrate me. That I was so severely dehydrated that it had caused heart attacks in me. So therefore, dehydration, don't be dehydrated. Also, take an aspirin every day and it will keep the clots from forming. And that's a major problem. And I am not a doctor. I am not giving official medical advice. This is just simply what I do. Do not do what I do. I am an idiot. Okay. Steve Carroll, how is health? Doing pretty good. Minor little things that we're still kind of working about, like being able to regulate body temperature a little bit. That finger right there still doesn't want to feel right, work right. But other than that, it's when I go to close my hand, it's like it wants to pull south instead of go straight back. It wants to pull down. And you think, well, it's arthritis. No, it wasn't doing that before it. So it's something up in the muscles up here that's on the other end of that puppet string ain't doing right. But other than that, I've been amazingly blessed. But thanks for asking. Heart attack instead of heart attack. Gotcha. Sorry, that's a completely different thing, ain't it, Gary? Yes, heart attack is just water, salt, and flour, non-leaven. Hard bannock is hardtack, and soft, flexible hardtack is bannock. But it's 2 cups of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of salt, water to bind it. That's basic hardtack. And like I said, bannock, same thing. It's just how hard you make it. Chris Hall, I'm not throwing him under the bus. He's the one that started it. Dump cake. Yeah, we can make dump cake. Blackie, have ever been to anything Midwest Bushcraft Winter Camp? I have not. Yep, that's correct, Gray Wolf. Flour, pinch of salt, enough water to bind, roll it thin, perforate it, and bake it twice. You bake it once, it's a bannock. You bake it twice, it's hardtack. 7 degrees after midnight in Macon, Tennessee. Wow. Yes, Townsend has, and so does Tasting History. He has a really good episode on that, and Hellfire Stew, where you take it and turn it into something to eat. Will, what's your favorite pocket pistol revolver? A 38 Special Smith & Wesson pocket gun. Kit gun type size. I don't remember the exact model number. I think it was like a 2.5 inch, 3 inch. I think it was a 2-inch barrel on it. And I made shot loads for it for snake carry, and it is a pocket gun. And the times that I was doing my job and a revolver, that's what I carried. And it had to be something small and compact, out of sight. Yep, Chris, you've had one too. It ain't no fun. Yeah, smart birds, correct. Adding in Creole mix, Old Bay, something to make it have that non-flour chalk taste. Yeah, it does help. I know we did a lot of it in reenacting, where they expected us to be carrying hardtack, and the public's coming through, and we're supposed to be eating lunch or whatever. And we'd be eating hardtack, boiling it, turning stuff. So we got real creative in things. We would take corn nuts, put them in a sack, and pound on them to break them up. And corn nuts is basically dried corn, you know, parched corn, they called it back then. But with corn nuts, it had salt and flavorings on it, you know. So you could say, you know, see, I'm eating hardtack and corn. Yeah, at least it had some flavor. Yeah, if you add baking powder, then you got a leavened bread. See. Tennessee Smoky, you're correct. There's a lot of people outdoors tonight, especially those in the Carolinas who are still trying to live in tents after the hurricane. Oh, cool, Gray Wolf. What'd you see? Single six convertible and stainless 7.5 inch barrel. The Hunter. Yes, I remember the Hunter. Yeah, and $600 is about right. Oh me. Well, guys, I think we're gonna call it quits a little early tonight. That's been an hour, and all this talk is about food making me hungry again. I think I'm gonna go get me a snack. Chris Bird, no, I have not had any experience with the 300 Savage, although I can tell you its performance is very similar to 7.6251 NATO 308 because that's where they kind of based it on. When they were reducing the 30-06 down to something, they kind of based it on the performance of the 300 Savage. So they're very similar. So be thinking like 308. Hominy cornbread. Yep. Apple, cherry, and pecan. Cool. Well, guys, let's call it quit. I do appreciate y'all tuning in. Like I said, I'm gonna run in yonder and get me. We got cookies made, and I think I'm gonna get me a cookie and check on the wifey. Y'all, thank you so much for coming every Thursday night. I really do appreciate and enjoy talking to y'all, and I plan on being here next Thursday night. Um, I don't have anything that's going to interfere. If it does, I'll let y'all know. Till next time, guys, wishing you safe journeys. God bless. Y'all be safe. Good night.